welcome everybody to Tushita. Today is the last days of the Days of Miracles. We've been working up to it for 14 days already. And so today it's our great pleasure. So also welcome to everybody online. I look this direction, Raisa? Wherever. So welcome Venerable Sayana, who has been translating tirelessly into Italian the whole 14 days. Great, thank you so much Venerable Sayana, and everybody who's been joining us mostly online. So we had very late night sessions and sometimes hybrid. We apologize also yesterday, Rinpoche came a little bit late because we were stuck in a traffic jam, and Rinpoche got out of the car and started walking up the hill. So it's our best excuse, so I'm so sorry. Some online people missed a little bit the start. So today is a really big day, the full moon day, Chudujichin, and we had already a full day program, starting with light offerings, morning meditation. We showed a video about the life of Buddha, a beautiful sutra reading, and now we have a session with some of Lama Yeshe's students, which is really, really precious because Tushita was the second. After Kopa Monastery, Tushita was the second FPMT center, right? Tushita is part of that whole organization called FPMT, the Foundation of the Preservation of the Mahayana Tradition. And Lama Yeshe came here in 1972 to look for a retreat place. And why Lama Yeshe was so attracted to this place is because His Holiness the Dalai Lama had settled already down at the temple, and one of His Holiness' main teachers, Trion Rinpoche, did a 7-year retreat. Now online you can't see it, but if you've been at Tushita, in our main Gompa, main meditation hall, there is a strange room cut out. That used to be where Trion Rinpoche did a 7-year retreat. So that was very attractive to Lama Yeshe and Lama Zopa Rinpoche because that was also their main teacher. So then Lama Yeshe basically, this land used to belong to a very ancient Indian family, the Norajis, and Rinpoche always told us stories about the Norajis who came from the Naropa lineage, apparently. So very ancient. They also invited His Holiness to this area. They used to have the only shop down in McLeod Ganj. There used to be like newspaper shop. They just took it away last monsoon, and now they're building a mall or something, I'm not sure. That big building that is coming up. So Lama Yeshe started this place as a retreat place. Very quiet. And then later on, when His Holiness won the Nobel Peace Prize, we became like a busy study center, and all the big lamas were here. Of course, Lama Yeshe, His Holiness the Dalai Lama was here. Zong Rinpoche, we talked about at lunchtime, right? Ling Rinpoche, Tsogkon Sentrab Rinpoche. Who am I forgetting? All these lamas who gave teachings at Tushita, at Kopa and Bodh Gaya. So we are so very honored to have some of the elder students here, because I think it's really elder students in experience and studies, Venerable. No comment on age. And because this is a lineage, right? This is a lineage from Lama Yeshe. For us it's very inspiring. I never met Lama Yeshe. Any of you met Lama Yeshe? So Lama Yeshe is our founder, and now also Lama Zopa Rinpoche passed on 2 years ago, so now we are already telling stories about Lama Zopa Rinpoche. So it's really, I think, inspiring to see the lineage, where it all came from. So thank you so much. May I request that you're introducing yourself. We start with the Sangha. Venerable Yapa gives me the look like.
Just my name, yes?
You're on. Everything, Venerable Yapa. You're on. Here we go.
What are we doing?
You're going to introduce yourself.
Just my name, or you want something else?
No, give your name. We give a little bit of time.
This could take some time.
My name is Nelson Garpel, and actually this is actually quite a special day. As I was coming back up from the village this morning, I realized the three of us, on March 3rd, 1977, met each other for the first time. So today is 49 years we've been unbelievably close friends throughout it all. And so it was very special. What to say? I was a lay practitioner for many years. I was part of the founding family of Vajrapani Institute. That's where Tom and George. And we were together there. I was there for 20 years before I took off. And I met Lama Yeshe actually 49 years ago today at a retreat in California, Yucca Valley. And for some of us, quite a famous retreat. And many of us are still very close today. Anyway, I was ordained by Chodron Rinpoche 23 years ago. And closer to my mouth. Maybe that's good for now when we start the stories of Lama Yeshe. I'll have more to say.
Hello, everybody. My name's Tom Wegener, and as Yarpel said, he, George, and myself all met 49 years ago. I was also one of the founders of Vajrapani. Yarpel failed to mention what a pivotal person he was at Vajrapani to make it happen. When we all got there, we were all very green under the skin, and we didn't really know what we were doing. We had been gifted a piece of property. It was a raw piece of land in the middle of the redwood forest in the Santa Cruz Mountains in California. And Yarpel showed up, and he knew how to build things. And it was on the back of him that Vajrapani was actually built. So I lived up there and helped build some things, and I was part of Lama Yeshe's care team at the end of his life. I met Lama Yeshe actually here at Tushita in 1975. He was giving an examination to his students, which he used to do. Maybe you all will be examined, after you all hear this, see what you learned. So he was testing some of his students, and people all came in and gathered in this room, and it was chock-a-block full, and I was living down by the library. And I got up late, and Lama Yeshe was the greeter at the door. And he greeted me, just because I came, and there was no room in there. He looked inside the building, and he says, "Okay, you go sit up there." And he had me sit right in the front row, right in front of him. And that was my experience of meeting him. And then, my story and our story goes on from there. Here's my dear friend, George Gall.
I am honored and humbled to be here. My impression, my name is George Gall. So I've been connected with Vajrapani Institute since its founding in 1975. And next year will be our 50th year on the land that the Vajrapani is still on. And I'm still intimately connected with Vajrapani. If I had an impression of Lama Yeshe that I would give, one of the first ones that I would say is that he was extremely welcoming. So he would make all of you feel welcome. So can I do that? No, but I can try. So you are all my family whom I haven't met, okay? We're all part of a large family, and this family is really quite extensive. And one of the absolute pleasures that I have had in trying to follow the Buddhist path is the people that I have met on it. So I look forward for you, kind of in your stead, for the people that you will meet, and if you continue this, the people that you will contact and make friends with and be brothers and sisters with, and it's extremely touching. So on behalf of all of us, welcome, welcome, welcome.
So I'm Ondi Wilson. And I'm teaching here for a few months. And this time last year I was also teaching here. I'm still able, despite my great age, to cross the ocean. I may need help next year, but you never know. So I met Lama Yeshe at Manjushri Institute in the north of England, which was one of the first big centres that they established. And I'd actually gone on a 3-week course there one summer. Some friends had told us about this place. It sounded very interesting. There were Tibetan Lamas there. Wow. So instead of going to a Greek island, we agreed we'd go and do this 3-week course. That was in the summer, and it wasn't Lama Yeshe, it was Geshe Jumpa Tekchog, who was the resident teacher there at the time, one of the resident teachers. It was Lama Yeshe and Lama Zopa, their empire, their mandala grew so big that they needed to send Geshes to be resident teachers. They couldn't be everywhere. And after those 3 weeks, I have to say, you could call it brainwashed, mind blown. So I went home, I was a school teacher, and I handed in my notice, sold my house, and 3 months later moved in. And lived there for 13 years. Yes, so I met Lama Yeshe a bit later, but I'll save that story because I think we have stories to tell now rather than just introductions, don't we?
No, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I'm just a substitute. I was just Ondi. Paula Chichester can't make it, and she had long time experience of being with Lama Yeshe. I really only knew him over a couple of years, so Venerable Kumpun said, would you? And I said, well, most of my stories are quite personal. I don't really want to talk about them. Because, as I say, I didn't have the long connection of establishing a centre as you guys did. So I set a very low tone here, because having moved in, I was quite new, and Lama Yeshe visited. And there was a huge fuss, and I didn't really know much about Lama Yeshe. And I just knew that, he kind of grabbed hold of you and told you what to do, so I didn't want to see him. I'd already sold my house and moved in. What more did they want? So I kind of hung around in the background, but somebody said, you need to see Lama Yeshe. So I went to see Lama Yeshe. And of course I was quite new to this institute. I was a school teacher, I was never a hippie. I was a working class girl from England, school teacher. And I'd done this big thing. And I guess we were one of the first kind of wave of people who came to centres to do courses, rather than the hippies who had met them in India, and then come back to their countries to establish centres. And so I was looking around this place, and I was quite an anomaly, is that the word? Because there were mainly hippies there. They were gorgeous creatures from all over the world, they stank of patchouli. They had those little ankle bracelets, and that was just the men. Anyway, I was very impressed by them, and I thought, God, I've really missed out, I've just been in the north of England teaching. In the northeast at that. Cold and windy. So I sat in front of him. I didn't really know much protocol, and he said, so dear, what are you going to do here? I said, well, actually, Lama, I thought I'd go to India. And he said, oh, what are you going to do there then? And I said, well, I thought I'd just go down to Goa and hang out. I've never been a hippie. He had hysterics. He just had hysterics. He just rocked back and forward, laughing. And I thought, what have I said? And he said, no, dear, this is what you're going to do. You're going to go to Bodh Gaya, and make 100,000 prostrations. And that was my introduction to Lama Yeshe. So as you can see, be careful when you go to see a Lama. Yeah. That's one story. Over to you.
Okay. So when we met Lama Yeshe at Yucca Valley, he was an incredibly charismatic individual. Like, he was just a magnet. I mean, it's so inspiring. And when we left, Yucca Valley was a month-long course. Lama was over Rinpoche teaching the first 2 weeks, and Lama the second 2 weeks. And then, towards the end of that course, there was some land offered in the Santa Cruz Mountains, and myself and my family moved there exactly 1 month after that. And many people followed shortly thereafter. We started Vajrapani Institute at that place. And when the Lama would tell us that whatever we're doing, make it a 1,000-year plan. Don't think small, and don't think short term. Always think like this incredible expansive view of the potential that we have here. And so over the years, at the beginning, Rinpoche and Lama Zopa Rinpoche and Lama Yeshe would travel together. And I think about 1980, they separated and they would each do their own tour. Okay, so I have to fast forward a little bit. So in the mid-80s, from 82 through 86, I was the director of Vajrapani. And when Lama came the last few months of his life, he came in like May of 83, and I had the incredibly good fortune of spending a lot of time with him. Maybe 2 or 3 times a week I'd have dinner with him and taking him to get driver's license and bank accounts. So anyway, many of the conversations we had were his idea of what he called universal education, where the Buddhist philosophy and methods could be expressed in non-Buddhist terms. And just many, many conversations about this. And at one point he wanted to find a place for universal education to begin, to plant its roots. And one morning I got a phone call from a friend of ours called Karuna Ketan, and he said to me, he said, Lama has given us 1 week to find a place for universal education. And so we grabbed the Lama and Sister Max had bought a house down on a cliff overlooking the ocean at the south end of Santa Cruz. And so we got the same realtor, and she came up with 3 places that we could look at. And the first place we took Lama to, and it was just outside of Ben Lomond. Anyway, he looked at it and he said, no, dear, this is much too small, and it won't work for what we want you to do. And the second place was the remnants of a mental hospital, like maybe 16 rooms down a hallway that was like maybe 12 feet wide, sort of thing. And anyway, it was obvious that wasn't going to work. And so the third place we're driving to, and Karuna and I are feeling like we've been set up. You know, we're just going through the motions to manifest what Lama already saw. And we came to a place called Greenwood Lodge. And as soon as we looked at it, we realized that this is the place that Lama was talking about. And so anyway, we went through the idea, the process of trying to purchase it. And at some point in time, Lama said that Karuna's family was quite wealthy, and he said this is a good chance for them to practice generosity. And so Karuna came back to Nepal, and his sister Lori was there, and his parents came up, and we were at this house that we'd rented for Lama Yeshe outside Santa Cruz. And so we're getting ready for dinner, we're standing around, and Lama grabs me and sort of eases me towards the front door, pushes me out the front door, closes the door, and grabs me by the front of my shirt and pushes me against the wall. And he says, "I don't care what you have to do, you make this happen." Just like, okay. But unfortunately, Kruna's parents were both incredibly bright, intelligent people, and I didn't have to do anything. So they figured this out, and it happened without me having to really do anything. So this next story, I just got permission from Dr. Nick 3 or 4 months ago that I could finally tell. We had a Vajrapani meeting at Lama's house, this rented house, and at the end of the meeting, Lama said he asked me if I would stay and have dinner, and we could watch a movie. And so we're sitting there, and we'd had dinner, and the movie was The Deer Hunter. And I was incredibly embarrassed because of the violence and the language. And for Lama, it doesn't faze him at all. And the phone rings. And there's 2 people from Manjushri Institute who want to come see Lama at that point in time. And Lama says, "Please come over." And I said, "Well, Lama, I'll take my leave and go home for this." And he said, No, dear. I want you to sit right here, and you're not going to believe what you hear." And so it was the translator for the Geshe in Manjushri, and a man named Chip Rotamore who showed up. And they came. First place, Manjushri Institute was like the jewel of that PMT at that time. It's a priority on 70 acres of land, all these incredible buildings. And the Lama had put a lot of energy in. And they had invited this resident Geshe to be there. And so these 2 show up. And Lama's sitting at the end of the coffee table here. I'm here, and these 2 yahoos are sitting here. And they proceeded to extort from Lama that unless he resigned from the board, they would press charges against 2 of our friends who had done some sort of, I think, smuggling money into England to support and establish Manjushri Institute. And unless Lama resigned, they would press charges against them, and that they had evidence that also that Lama had broken the law. And my mouth was wide open the whole time because I couldn't believe what I was hearing. And so I had to take them back to where I lived in Boulder Creek, like 20 miles away. And our neighbor was gone, and so they stayed at her house. And the next morning they came over, and I just couldn't, I couldn't just ask them, what can you possibly be thinking? And they just said nothing. And so Lama that night had recorded a message to them of that time it was a cassette, for them to take back to Manjushri with them. And then the whole time this was going on, when they're giving this extortion, Lama the whole time is just saying, "Thank you, dear. Thank you, dear. Thank you so much, dear. Thank you, dear." And then he recorded his message, and what he told them, he said, "I accept your terms." But he said, "You have to realize you're making a huge, enormous mistake in regards to Guru devotion." And this, of all the ways that we can screw up our lives in the Dharma, there's nothing more severe than disrespecting your Guru. There's nothing worse. And so he told him this on the tape, and the tape went back, and they went on from there. And then a couple of weeks after that, Chandra Rinpoche was in Vajrapani giving a 2-week course. And during that course at noontime, I got a phone call from Lama. And he says, I want you to go over and tell Son Rinpoche what you heard. He said, I'm too embarrassed to tell my guru what happened. And so I couldn't believe he was there, because Son Rinpoche was a very stern. I was just reading a couple of nights ago, Lama Rinpoche said he was like one of the pundits from Nalanda University. He said he was like Chandrakirti himself. I mean, he was just beyond. And so I grabbed my friend Chuck, because I wasn't going to go over to the house by himself. So I told Rinpoche what I'd heard. And all he could say is, there's nothing I can do. He said, both Lama and the Yeshe and England are my students, and I can't plug myself into that disagreement. Anyway, it was from that Son Rinpoche told us the importance that everything that any sinner does to make sure that everything is done always perfectly legal, without not cutting corners, so you can avoid anything like this could ever happen. So Lama had bought this house, and and he was manifesting being sick. His health wasn't good, and I kept begging him that when he was getting ready to leave, I was begging him that if he got his health turned worse, that he would come back, so we could take care of him at his new house. And so he left, went to Europe for a couple of months, back to Kopan. Actually, they didn't pass through here. I don't know, but he left Vajrapani in September, I think, and by December he was very, very ill. He left Kopan and he was at someplace outside of Delhi in January under the care of some doctors. And I got a phone call from Karuna saying that Lama was coming back to America, and gave me, when he was coming in, for me to meet him when he arrived. And so I went to the San Francisco airport, and I greeted them, and it was Lama, Sister Max, figures, Lama, Sister Max, Lama Zopa Rinpoche, and the Lama's Indian doctor. And so we went from the airport to the hospital at Stanford University, where they were going to try to do some work to save Lama's heart and save his life. And so while we were there, the Sister Max and the doctor and Lama were over at the counter getting checked in, and I was with Lama Zopa Rinpoche sitting in this small lobby. And I spoke to Rinpoche. I said, Rinpoche, I've had a couple of dreams this week, and I would like to see if you would explain them to me. And the first one, Lama was looking like over his shoulder at me, an incredibly stern expression on his face, and he's saying, you don't know who I am. You don't know who I am. He said, I am Lama Haruka. I am Lama Haruka. And then, maybe the next night, I had another dream where Lama was sitting in front of a fire, and I'm sitting on the side, and he reaches in and grabs these hot coals and squeezes them, and all these sparks and fire come flying out of it. And I asked Rinpoche, what is the meaning of this? And he said, that is actually who Lama is Lama Haruka. He's fully enlightened being. Like that. And what he's showing you when he grabs this fire element is that he has complete control over the elements. You know, he's a fully enlightened Buddha. And for me, this was one of the biggest disasters I had, because at that time with the issues at Manjushri Institute and a couple other places, there was a lot of disharmony in the FPMT at that time. And I figured from what Rinpoche's interpretation of these dreams was, the Lama, this was an act. This ill health, it was done to bring the students together. You know, that this would be all fine, and then he would, you know, manifest suddenly, he'd be all healthy again, and everything would be, you know, sunshine, lollipops and roses again. And over the next month, his health gradually decreased, and after a couple of weeks, he had a stroke. And anyway, I got a phone call from one of the nurses saying Lama had a stroke, and I was 12 miles away. And I'm sure I set a land speed record from Boulder Creek to Santa Cruz Hospital. And I got there before Lama, just as the ambulance was getting there, and it turns out they took Lama to the wrong hospital. And so then they had taken him to Dominican. And the next day, we had this meeting there, and Lama's up Rinpoche. First thing he said was, you got to get Lama out of the room he's in. He's in a room with like 5 or 6 other beds and these other people. And he says it's killing him because there's compassion for these other people in the room. He says, you've got to get him out of that room so we can have his own room. And then later that morning, we had this meeting. And it was Rinpoche and the 2 nurses, and I don't know, Sister Max and some other people, and with discussion to decide what emergency measures would be taken to save Lama's life. And all I could do was say, I'm not taking part in this meeting. This is not my business like this. And you know, Tom the whole time was on. He was the caretaker for Lama's body. The massages and always on call. And then so what to say? Anyway, there's a lot of commotion around Lama the last 2 weeks of Lama's passing. So Rinpoche came back with a stroke from Switzerland, and then we'd go to Presbyterian Hospital in San Francisco, and from there, the air ambulance to LA to Cedar Sinai. And I had taken that weekend off, thinking I would rejoin them. And so on Losar, March the 3rd, actually, that year, another anniversary for this day, we were doing a puja, Lama Chopa puja at Lama's house in Santa Cruz, and I got a phone call that said Lama had just passed. And for me, because I had set myself up that Lama was going to recover, completely convinced that this was going to happen, that I was so totally crushed. And it took maybe 10 years to get over it, like that. Anyway, what did I can get through this? He was like the inspiration for my life, and it still goes on. Thank you.
Thank you, Yarvel. So to continue on the same thread, after Lama Yeshe had his stroke, one of the nurses got a hold of me and was taking care of him and asked me to come help. So I came to this house in Aptos and began to do caregiving for him, which I had never done before. And so my shift was from, as I remember, 7 in the evening until 7 in the morning, doing 12-hour shifts. And Lama would ask me to massage him. And if you can imagine having your precious holy guru asking you to massage him is quite daunting. And he'd had a stroke, his left side of his body was paralyzed, and he was bedridden. So yeah, I would give him a massage, and when I get down to his feet, he would lift his foot up like this, actually his right foot, and he would place it on my heart. Not only to me would he do this, but to the other caregivers. And he would just hold his foot there. And I don't know how familiar all of you are with, doing Buddhist sadhanas and things, but there's this reoccurring theme of dissolving the guru and having him abide in your heart. And so I would think, wow, so this is how it is. Then, moving around Lama's body, he would then come and he would grab you and pull you down onto his chest and hug you, like your mother or your father would do. And he would hold you there. So he had another caregiver, Thupten Monlam, who was an adopted son of Lama Zopa Rinpoche. He was a Sherpa up at Laudo, whose father had asked Lama Zopa Rinpoche to adopt him, which he did. And he was called over as a caregiver to help with this. And Thupten Monlam's job was to put his hand on Lama Yeshe's heart, and he would hold his hand there. Lama Yeshe had rheumatic fever, and his heart was very large. He had said earlier to one of our fellow students that one year, and when he was living in Berkeley, he had 200 heart attacks. But because of his abilities as a great yogi, as Haruka, he managed that. But his health was deteriorating. So Yarpo had mentioned that Song Rinpoche came. Song Rinpoche was overseeing the care of the decisions that were being made on Lama's care. And so he came to Aptos, and he and Lama Zopa did a puja one day. And Song Rinpoche said that when the weather changed, that there would be a change. And as Yarpo had mentioned, we were all wishing that this change would be for the better. So we held that thought. But in fact, that wasn't the case. So he went from Aptos, he went to San Francisco, and I attended to him in San Francisco. And then after that, John said he was medevac back down to Cedars-Sinai in Los Angeles. And there he was in the ICU, and myself and another one of the students, the members of Vajrapani, went down there, and then we were with him in the ICU, and then at 5 a.m. on Losar, he manifested a massive heart attack. And at that time then, Lama Zopa was with him, myself, and Shasta. And the protocol had just changed the night before to resuscitate or not to resuscitate. And the protocol went from no resuscitation to resuscitation. So the ICU got filled up with all of these doctors and medics, and they came in. It was extremely chaotic. They hustled us all out. And they spent a couple of hours, an hour and a half, I believe, trying to resuscitate him. And anyhow, he passed. So we kept him in the hospital, but they gave us a room, and other members in the community started showing up, and he was held there, and we took him to, he had a room, pujas were done for him there, he was taken to the morgue, and the next day we had a viewing of him, And then we didn't know what we were going to do with this holy body. And he was either going to come to India or be in California. And Yarpel can elaborate on this when he gets the microphone back. It was, anyhow, so we put him in my truck and we drove him like, I don't know, 400 miles back to Vajrapani. Rinpoche was in another vehicle. And we arrived at Vajrapani, and then Lama Zopa Rinpoche told me to take care of his holy body because we didn't know what was going to happen. So we got dry ice, we placed it all around his body, we took him in a room off of the meditation hall, and he was lying there in state. So then perhaps 24, 36 hours later, I can't say, a decision was being made that we would cremate him at Vajrapani. And as that decision was made, we looked at his body and we realized that we had frozen him solid. So, what are we going to do? He needs to be sitting up. We need to create a cremation site for him, have him sit, put in the Vajra clothing, and be able to place him in there. So all night we were boiling water down in the kitchen, putting it in plastic bags, not boiling, but warming it up, putting it in plastic bags, and we'd start putting it on his shoulders, on his hips, and on his knees to try and defrost him in time so that we would be able to have this cremation. And people were coming from all over the world. And so it was on us to, defrost, get our guru set up, and be able to do this. We managed to do it. Yarpel built a cremation site. Lama Yeshe was defrosted. He was brought to the cremation site. Solon Rinpoche officiated. Lama Zopa Rinpoche was there. Other lamas. And so we completed that, and I just want to say to all of you, it's like Lama Yeshe was extremely unique, and as you heard, he's very charismatic, and if you were out in some restaurant or some sporting event, or if you were at a rock concert and you saw him, he's different, and his magnetism would grab you, and no doubt you'd be a lucky one and say, I want to meet this man. He had that kind of magnetism. So I invite you all, you can come to Vajrapani and you can visit this site. He's responsible for everything you see in FPMT. He was the C. Lama Zopa Rinpoche was not playing an active part at that time. He was the reluctant yogi. And he stepped into some big shoes, and since Lama's passing, he's done a magnificently in creating this mandala. But I just want you, anyhow, to know that. Thank you. And here's George.
This is the first time I'm hearing a lot of these stories. So, especially the one that my friend Venerable Yarfel just was talking about. So, you will forgive me if I'm a little, as they say in Hippie, blown away. Tom touched on something that I just want to talk about just briefly. I've had the good fortune in my life, and I don't know how this has ever worked out. I don't know for what reason I've had this fortune, but I've had the fortune to meet some absolutely exceptional teachers. His Holiness the Dalai Lama, Rinpoche. Many of these, which will probably be, some of them will just be names to you, so I won't go on. I have never met anybody who was remotely like Lama Yeshe. And that also goes, by the way, I've never met anybody who was remotely like Kalchi Zopa Rinpoche either. They were both absolutely unique in their ability to be able to communicate and to touch people and to reach out and to make contact. And I've had the chance just over the last several weeks to visit several of the centers that Lama Yeshe founded at Kopan, at Root Institute in Bodh Gaya, here, and probably other places as well. And one of the, I spend a certain amount of time at Vajrapani because I love it there. And the thing that always strikes me about it is, without Lama, none of this. This is who made this organization. It's who made these centers. This was his mandala, if you will, his, his idea. And as Venerable said, he urged us not to think small, Vajrapani was to be a 500-year project, So we're, at our 50th anniversary, we're 1/10 of the way into that. So it would be nice to think of it as growing, continuing to grow, and to continuing to be a benefit. So, but thank you both for, and all of you for telling these stories, and I think that's all I've got to say for the moment. So.
I've got a more fun story. Actually, I just told this story for the first time ever at Root Institute a few weeks ago. In the summer of 1983, Lama came to Vajrapani and he gave a 2-week course called the 6 Yogas of Naropa, which is a highly advanced course. It's like completion stage yoga course. That he invited, with no prerequisites, whoever wanted to come could come to this course. And he gave them this experiential opportunity. And so during the course of this, in one of the evening meditations, we were practicing like Tumo. What to say, developing psychic heat like this in the body, and I don't know how to get involved, but melting the drops at the different centers and getting your consciousness to go into the central channel. And during one of these evening meditations, Lama wasn't there. It was Tibetan Mahayana was leading the meditation. Lama was in the guest house a ways away. Anyway, during this meditation, suddenly I started having the experience of this incredible heat in my abdomen, coming up and melting the drops in my crown, passing down through the channels, and the bliss becomes unbearable almost, and the energy goes back up to the top and down to where the bliss is such that the concentration becomes so relaxed and so focused that there's no wish to be distracted. There's nothing that can be distracting. And anyway, this went on for the course of the meditation session. And the next night, I duplicated it, only not quite to that extreme. And then I just realized that what had happened was that the Lama had come and come down into my heart and given me this experience. And it was more like, just like if you will practice, this is what's available to you. At that time I could recognize that this was way above my pay grade at that point, and there's been a waste of time just to pursue this experience. And anyway, I haven't duplicated it since, but it's always to know the possibility. The possibility. And Lama was a great practitioner. He was a hidden yogi. He took a nap after lunch every day for 2 hours, and that was the chance he had to do his meditation every day. like I say, incredibly inspiring, dedicated, holy being, and we're all incredibly fortunate, those of us who got to meet him and devote ourselves to him. So that's it for me.
I just want to add something onto that. So when Lama was in the hospital before he passed, Yarpul actually had given me a call and told me he was at Stanford to go visit him. And so I went over there, and he wasn't feeling well. And so I was holding a bucket, and he was getting sick in the bucket. And he was in a room, and it had a curtain, and there was somebody on the other bed. And he's there, feeling bad. And the relatives of the people who's in the bed next door had come in. And I believe that he was in the cardiac ward because he had cardiac issues. And these people start talking to their relative, and they start weighing in on him. And Lama just kind of stops, and we're looking at each other, and now we're both listening to what's happening on the other side of the curtain. And these people are giving, whether it's the brother or children, I'm not sure, I can't say the relationship, but the fellow who was in the cardiac ward, they were giving him the business about the life he had led, and how he needed to get a grip on it, and you could die from this, and what kind of meaning were you going to have if you continued with what you're doing, and they just went on and on. And Lama looked at me, and he says, that's the real long rim. So, when you're studying Buddhism and you see these outlines and all of this stuff, and it looks a little bit like, dry Buddhist philosophy or something, or does it relate to me? It's like, it relates to us, in real life. And when his comment was, this is the real long rim, really, anyhow, that moved me.
Yeah, please.
Well, it's just something simple, really. I think you're getting the feel that Lama Yeshe was just big love. That's how he signed off, and that's how we all knew him, and his biography was called Big Love. And you did feel when you were with him that you were the most important person, and he gave you everything, and he knew exactly what to give you. So incredible feeling of love, indescribable. And he was also, certainly my experience with my friends and other students when we were with Lama Yeshe and Lama Zopa. Lama Zopa would be very serious, and you'd get long teachings on suffering and the hell realms, and you could see people's heads get lower and lower and lower. And then he would finish, and Lama Yeshe would come in and go, don't worry, dears, we're all going to the Pure Land, and he would lift you. There would be this fantastic feeling. It was like the good policeman and the bad policeman, if you like. They were both doing the same job. And just to finish this story, this theme, Lama Zopa was with me once, and we were looking at some pictures of different teachers on the shrine. And I was going along, and then he came to Lama Yeshe, and as was very popular, there was a picture of Lama Yeshe laughing and smiling, and he went, this is Lama working.
The Lama had a side to him that I thought was extremely practical. He would say, just to mark off of what, or to jump off of what you have said, we used to call them the Dharma tag team. They you tag one, and they'd come in and do what they needed to do, and then they would tag out, and you get bodhicitta. you know. And then you get Bodhicitta for a while, and then you get Lamrim for a while. It was really a perfect, the perfect tag team. So, the Lama taught in a very practical way. He said if you eat a Dharma cake in the morning, you should have some results by the afternoon. He said you don't have to wait years to have a benefit from this. It should be, you know, this is kind of quite immediate. I went to a group interview one time with him and a bunch of other people. And he asked everybody what their practice was. And people would say, well, I'm doing this, or, you know, I'm studying Lamrim, or I'm doing such and such a tantra, or, you know, I'm doing, you know, out there, doing, you know, whatever it was. And one of the people said, you know, Lama, I'm really not doing much. I'm trying to practice the 10 virtues. And Lama kind of got really excited and grabbed their hand and jumped up and said, that, very practical.
I'm done.
Everybody all done?
More stories. I don't know if you do. You got. What's the room like?
Sorry?
So, you want to hear more, or?
Do you want to ask questions,
How about
maybe?
you online? You want to hear more?
Does anybody have any questions?
Please.
Were you three were hippies?
Absolutely.
The question was,
Hippies.
were the three of us, or four of us, hippies?
No, the three of you.
Yes, we were hippies. We still are.
So the note about that is, at the beginning in the 70s, there were three major Tibetan teachers in America. One was Chogyam Trungpa, and he seemed to get, not to be too much, but it was like the New York Jewish sort of feeling. And Soga Rinpoche, he got all the yuppies, the young upward professionals. Lama Yeshe and Lama Zopa got all the hippies. And that was it. And one more story. In the month that Lama was in his house, before he manifested the stroke, and then he manifested the stroke, I'd been on like every day for, I think, 3 weeks or something. And then Chuck Thomas and Tom Begley and I went to Carpo's for a hamburger and decided we'd smoke a joint. And we went back to the house, and as soon as I walked in the house, Lenny grabs me and he says, I'm giving Lama a bath and I need you to come watch his privates. You know, just right off the street with my eyes just blazed like that. And then getting all that, then I got to take him to the toilet. I mean, you pray to be close to your guru. You know, and then suddenly you find yourself in this unbelievable situation, and then just pleasantly blazed at the same time. I mean, it just, like this. So we were all hippies. If you could see pictures of us from 1977, 78, you would be hard pressed to recognize.
Exactly.
You know, anyway, we had a very, very good time.
I want to hear more of what you have to say as well. But Lama was able to somehow bring us all together. All of us, we were all rebels, you know. I mean, we had rebelled against society and we had rebelled against organized religion. And somehow Lama was able to get all of us together. And these people here have dedicated their life to the Dharma and have dedicated their life to furthering Lama Yeshe and Lama Zopa's vision. And that kind of, loyalty or perseverance, very difficult to find. So that not only speaks to Lama, but it also speaks to these three my three colleagues up here.
So Lama had a big vision. We at Vajrapani were really outliers. We didn't want to obey by the rules. And so when we were first getting started, he had one nun, Annie La Ann, and she had been in Australia to help start a center down there called Chinmay Institute. And she showed up, and we were all really green with our misunderstanding of Buddhist philosophy. And she was a glue that held us together in the first year or two while we were trying to build this center. And she told us that we would, we'll build it in a couple of years and we'll be done and we'll move on and we'll grow up and have a life, That wasn't true. Lama gave us Annie La Ann, and then later on, when he was chastising us for moving too slow, then he had his attendant at that time was his name was John Schwartz, and he was a movie producer in LA, and John Wayne was was one of the famous actors that he had produced. And so this guy had lots of gravitas in the movie industry. He had been on the streets and had a skill set that we knew nothing about, because as we'd been outed, we were hippies. We didn't really know how to do anything. So Lama Yeshe gave us John Schwartz, a movie producer from Hollywood that became our director. And so we began then on the back of his skill set, enthusiasm, complete devotion to Lama, Vajrapani began to flourish. And perhaps Yarpo might want to jump in and sing John Schwartz's. He was actually in a movie. I can't tell you the movie now, but I just saw it by chance. And it was a really great movie. It came out about 3 years ago when I'm watching this movie. And then he was one of the characters in the movie. John Schwartz had already passed. Do you remember the name of the movie?
Yeah, I don't remember the name of the movie, but Al Pacino played him. His name was Marlon Schwartz, which was actually John's name. So if you look at the producer credits of like a film like War Wagon, which was a John Wayne classic, Marvin Schwartz that's our John Shore. Lama called him John Shore.
So as you go forward, look for pivotal people that help you to make it happen. You want to talk about John Shore? It's okay.
He was an incredibly close friend, so he was a great storyteller, is what he was. And whenever he was around the lamas, he had no shyness, and they loved him because he would just talk to them. The rest of us are walking around like this, and John would just sit and talk to them, and they loved it. And he had great, great stories and incredible gossip about all these Hollywood stars. It was so much fun to hear, and unfortunately he had a heart attack and had major heart surgery, and I think he lived maybe 7 years after that, and then at age 67 he had another heart attack and passed away. And anyway, he was a very close friend.
I remembered the name of the movie.
Right.
The movie is called Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
We're deaf.
Yeah, all four of us.
So you want to stand up and say it?
He just said that he watched that movie as well.
just said that he watched the movie too.
Oh, it's
Very good.
Are there any other questions?
No, he'd seen the movie also.
Oh yeah, I know, I heard that.
Can I have a question, please?
Thank you for speaking up.
Yeah. I wanted to ask, in Lama Yeshe's teaching for the newcomers, for the people who are like maybe interested in Buddhism but not very studied it well, what he accentuated in his teaching, like what was the main priority for them? What he would tell them to do? You do it, first thing you do, like you do this.
The main thing that Lama would do was connect. We saw him do this a lot. This is my projection. I don't know what Lama was doing. I have no idea what Lama was doing. But the appearance was that he would connect with people. My friend Judy Watson told me a story of taking Lama to a fast food restaurant in a very poor neighborhood in Seattle at like 11 o'clock at night. And Lama was swarmed by people, kind of rough-looking people, and Judy Weitzner is kind of thinking, oh, we got to get out of here. And Lama looks around and says, isn't this wonderful, dear? So I've heard stories of him, like people would come to see him and he would talk to them about something they were interested in, gardening or carpentry or, things like that, and make that connection first. So that was, to my mind, that was the first thing he would do, would be to connect. Then if there was some room, I used to call him what would you call it? We used to say jujitsu, karate. He would find a place where you had an opening, and he would, then something would go in that would be very relevant to that person. So some of you may have a different answer. So
That's mine.
In the summer of 1983, Lama's cook and attendant was Oa Del Blanco, and Oa was gay. And so he took Lama to San Francisco for the Gay Freedom Day parade. And I don't know exactly what occurred there, but the next weekend we started this 3-weekend teaching on Vajrasattva Sok, which is a text that Lama had written. But anyway, during the first Saturday of those teachings, every time Lama would mention San Francisco, he couldn't stop laughing. He'd look at Oa, and they would both just start giggling, and this went on. But I mean, Lama had, there's no discrimination. Everybody was a sentient being that needed help with their problems and to become happy. And whatever it took was what he had to offer. Yeah.
Pass it that way. Really. Please, I'd like
Please
to hear.
what? What do you want to know?
We've been talking a lot.
Yeah, but I think it's because you had spent a lot more time. I mean,
And I have a question for you.
Oh.
Sorry, you have a question for me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you do the 100,000 frustration?
Well, that's very personal, you see. That's what I said. This is very personal. Well, oh yes. Well, the truth is, I did go to Bodh Gaya, and I did about 2/3. Then I got hepatitis, and one day I went down, and I didn't get up again. And then eventually, I did find my way to Kopan Monastery, and he told me, when you finish your prostrations, you come to Kopan and see me. So I went to Kopan, and I was just sitting on top of the hill. There was nobody there, and suddenly, this was just really months before, I don't know the timing, before Lama Yeshe died. This kind of, I didn't recognize him as Lama Yeshe. He kind of came towards me, smiling and laughing, and we talked. And I said, Lama, I couldn't finish it, And he said, he kind of bowed to me and just said, you have done a really good job. And what else would he say? Yeah. What else would he say? So, you know. So I didn't have to do any more. That's the main thing. Yes, yeah. I think we...
It's more for you guys as people rather than about Lama Yeshe. I'm at a stage in my life I feel where it's become very clear and like an embodied thing that Dharma is how I have to sort of lead my life and helping heal myself and others. And I know it's a very long journey and you guys have gone a long way on it, and I just wanted to know if you had any advice or any words of wisdom or anything to say, or just, reflections.
Can I say something that's close to my heart at the moment? I think we're at a stage, at a time in the world where it's really important that we have a kind of spiritual rebellion. That we put our spiritual paths first. And I think we were very fortunate, actually, because we were at a time when it was, you could give up your job, then you could pick it up again, or another one. You could get somewhere cheap to live. And so we did make centres and move into centres. It somehow was easier, and I know it's not like that now. But somehow, that is really what the world is crying out for, is, to remove ourselves from the capitalism and the materialism and all the stuff that's giving us such worry and anxiety. And you're finishing your course, and everybody's full of it, at the end of a course here, but then they go back. They have to get a job, or their families and their relationships start, and before you know where you are 10 years down the line, you've forgotten. So I think that's what we were blessed with, definitely, and what I would love to think that somehow you can carry that forward, because now is the time, and I think Lama would say that. Definitely, yeah.
So I think that the operative word in that I would share with you and how you go forward is your effort. And with effort, it's joyous effort. And I think that if you guys, you all can capture the joy, that is a vehicle that's really important, to try to use in your Dharma practice, because your joy is contagious. Your joy will make things happen. Your joy will make you happy. It'll make others happy. And joy rocks.
Spoken like a true hippie.
Bodhicitta, okay, you all know what I'm talking about. I don't have to go any farther. Very important, to do as much as one can with the thought of benefiting others. So that enough said there. Patience, okay, very, very important. Lama used to give some teaching, he used to give some teaching, and then he'd look around at us and go, "Long way to go, baby." So, long way to go, baby.
I think the key thing for you that are finishing this course is that whatever you've understood is to put it into practice. Because that will only encourage you, because you'll find that this works. Compassion works. Understanding reality works. The compassion and the understanding of reality reinforce each other. And as you get more confidence in the fact that this is true, this stuff works, you'll continue with it. But if you go back home and you just treat this as another vacation that you had and not realize how profound even the simplest things that you've heard are, you will have lost. And there's nothing could be worse, because you're the most fortunate to think about all the billions of people on this earth and how few have gotten this opportunity to hear about bodhicitta, to hear about what's the nature of reality, what's real, what's not real. And so you can take advantage of your precious life and bring benefit to yourselves and everybody you come in contact with. So, I just rejoice in your good fortune, and please don't let it to waste. Thank you, Sila.
Thank you.
For me, that's good.
Okay.
Well done. Thank you.
Thank you all so much. Thank you all.
Go for a walk. You can go. We can go.
Please dedicate your merit. Please, please, let's all dedicate it.
Thank you so much. Sangha first. Thank you so much, Venerable Yapala. Ladies first. Thank you so much,
Thank
dear
you.
Onila. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Lovely meeting you. Thank you so much.
I'd like to offer this to the center, please. Thank
Sure,
you so
sure.
much.
Thank you so much. No. It's okay. No. Please keep. Tushita needs a lot of merit. Please. Thank you so much. Very, very inspiring. And some people have been missing Paula. So you can tell what's happening.
Okay.
Paula is quite sick, but she is on the way of recovery.
Yes, we were worried that when we showed up, because we didn't have this lovely bikini down at the end, that you would be disappointed because we're not as cute as Paula. But Paula is feeling much, much better. She's had a really bad flu and has been in bed for four days now. But she's feeling much better, and we saw her this morning, and her color is coming back, and she's extremely tired, but she was able to get out of bed and take a shower and eat something, so really good. Yeah.
So Paula, if you're watching, I know Jeff is watching. Jeff is somewhere on Zoom, her partner. Then I hope, happy Shuto Duchin. I sent her a message already, and get well soon. I'm looking, where do I look? Up there, down there. And we hope you're coming back to Tushita very soon to lead the Vajrayogini retreat. Please. You have to put it in, no? I'm SBC, so what can I do? Thank you so much. It was very lovely meeting you. Thank you so much for jumping in. Our Dakini, our Sangha member. Thank you so much. You good, everybody? Happy? Thank you so much, everybody. Online, last day of the Days of Miracles. Please enjoy and join us again next year. And in between, of course, we have many courses, retreats. Please come and visit us here at Tushita. And we have the Medicine Buddha Puja, I think not hybrid. Where's Raisa? I think it's only here. Yeah, Medicine Buddha Puja, you have to get a flight to Dharamsala and make it to 7 o'clock. Okay? If you're joining us from around here, at 6:30 there is a lunar eclipse. Apparently it just happens every 20 years. Our students, do you have to take care of your eyes with lunar eclipse? No? I think the full moon was yesterday. I looked up around 7 o'clock, right above Lama Yeshe Stupa out here. Yeah, there is that huge full moon. So apparently at 6:30 it's gonna be covered. That's a lunar eclipse, isn't it? Oh. So all, during your dinner, after your dinner, all look up there and let's see. I think in eclipses your merit multiplies by So it's already multiplied by 100 million. So then, if you do something virtuous, mind-boggling, Venerable Yapa is going like, oh, it's too much merit. And we're going to have a lovely puja at 7 o'clock. So we create lots of merit. Medicine Buddha puja at 7 o'clock, yeah? Probably the lunar eclipse is still going on. If you have a torch, bring a torch. I have no idea. I guess it'll get pitch dark anyway, but darker in that way. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you all.